As it is,
The recording has started.
As it is 5:30 on January 12th, I'd like to call the Water Sewer Department meeting to order. I think we could start off with the superintendent update.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to make one request, if we could, if people that aren't up for speaking could possibly mute themselves. It'll improve the recording later on when we have the minutes secretary do the review. And we'll get right into the updates here, try and move it along. Last Friday, around 7:30 in the morning, we ended up receiving a few phone calls for sewer pump alarms that were going off down on King Philip Road. We actually dispatched multiple technicians to the area, spoke with a few residents as we entered the area. Police department was also there. They were dispatched to a call of sewer running down the road. Thankfully, that was not the case. We actually did find multiple alarms that were sounding and more while we were on site. Spoke with a few of the homeowners that were down there. The problem seemed to have started in the early morning hours, and there was a pump company that was called out to one of the homeowners, and it was determined that the clog was a little further down the line and it wasn't actually in their system. We didn't receive the call till a few hours later, so we assessed the situation, kind of had a good idea of what to look for. We've been down there in April doing some maintenance, and we just recently replaced the air release valves on that 3-inch pressure line down there. So we gathered the necessary tools. We called in the pump truck and began the work for jetting the line. Went probably 1,000 feet one way with really no issues. We went to the second manhole as we were going manhole to manhole, and were able to come up with a clog about 4 feet in on that sewer manhole. Unfortunately, consisted mostly of grease and other household waste. And, the small 3-inch line down there, even though it's a force main, acts very similar to a residential service. It doesn't take much to clear it up. So notification was sent out when we were doing the work down there. Notification was also sent out and posted on the website when the work was completed. And I added to that a friendly reminder to please refrain from dumping items down the drain that could normally be thrown away in the trash, and had a small list on there. The biggest thing it seems like we have a problem down there is actually with the grease. Even though it goes through the E1 brand pumps, it still becomes a problem down the line. Something that we will be looking at making a few changes to. It's not going to eliminate the problem, but it'll give us ease of access for cleaning and maintenance purposes down the road. I think if we have another dry summer, we're going to definitely look at dropping in at least one or maybe even two additional manholes down there on that line. That just doesn't seem like there was enough installed in the per the original design. But that line has since been flowing. Again, knock on wood, no issues since we went down there and cleaned that out. And once again, we'll move forward to samples. Lead and copper samples were completed last month. The participation from the residents was actually down from previous rounds. We had to reach out by phone to a few homes and actually knock on a few doors to meet our required Mass DEP quota. A few residents have flat out refused to take the sample, which just adds to the dwindling list of qualified and approved homes. It's a state list from the DEP based on age of home and type of plumbing that was used at the time. Some people that have installed filtration systems, and they're now exempt from that. We cannot test the filtered water. It defeats the purpose. So a few have been taken off the list for preventative reasons and not having a false sample with a filter. Others have refused. So our list is getting smaller. In the event we cannot make our required amount of samples, we would actually get what's called an NON, or Notice of Noncompliance, from Mass DEP. And that violation would then be posted in the annual reports and also on the town website. So it is a very important sample that we do not have control over. It's a homeowner taken sample. Basically, it's a representative sample of the plumbing and fixtures in their home and how they react with the town water. It is not a representative sample of the water in the distribution system. And basically what that means is, over time, if you have some older plumbing fixtures in the house, or you have older solder in the house, it can leach into the water, and that's, what would be your first draw. Typically, you'd open your faucet in the morning, brush your teeth, fill your coffee pot. That's basically what they're looking for, is to let people know just what reaction, based on the age of home, that they're seeing in the sample results. These samples are also done in the schools and daycares as a requirement. There were 2 samples that were higher than the MCL in 2 of the schools. Again, the schools have been closed for a long time, and many of the fixtures in the schools are not used now with the limited capacity there, and especially where they're not actually cooking meals and using the same water they were before. The repeat samples that were required actually came back and were lower, which indicates usually could be an indication that improper flushing was had before the sample, but it's not always an exact science. So usually DEP will recommend that the fixtures that the sample was taken from, whether it be a kitchen faucet or a bathroom faucet, are replaced with a certified fixture, which would be a no-lead fixture. And repeat samples will be taken either after that or during the next round, whichever DEP requires, to prove that the levels have lowered. If not, it would require an additional investigation into the plumbing and piping that is in the schools. So that is in the works. There's litigation going back and forth with paperwork between Boston DEP, Southeast Regional, ourselves here, and the schools, trying to fine-tune everything and what their requirements are and what their recommendations are. And, the schools are aware and they're willing to do the improvements as necessary. And we will pass the information along to them as we receive it. We're kind of in the middle here on everything with that. And we'll keep jumping right along. I think we're still on time. Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question in regards to the lead and copper.
Yes.
You only targeting the houses between 83 and 85, or are you asking everybody if they want to participate?
No, we have the approval from DEP. They really wanted us to focus on the tier 1 sites, the 83 to 85.
Correct.
And we do have secondary sites on there, which are the tier 2s and 3s. They really want us to focus on those tier 1s as we have in the past. With the new treatment plant online, we have seen the numbers actually lower themselves a little bit, which is a good thing. We know, running the increased pH, which started, quite a few years ago. The goal of that was to lower the lead and copper levels. Now, where we have, the filtration plant there, I know we're going to be looking at trying to get those pHs lowered to what we think is a better level for, our purposes. We know we've had better water quality running at a different level of pH. But yeah, right now we're targeting the specific homes, and that list is pretty small. Norton, even though it is relatively large in size, there was very few homes that haven't been modified that were built in that original criteria.
Okay. All right, thanks. Sorry.
No, sure, please. No. All right, so we'll jump along. I had sent the commission a copy of the updated sewer wording that we'd like to see for the sewer material specs. I'm not sure if you guys recall getting them in the email or not. I can read them off quickly. I know we wanted to add this to the material specs as written. We have a brand name mainline adapter valve is what we want to have installed. This is the backflow device that is known as a backwater valve, and it can actually be removed and cleaned through a clean out, which obviously would have to be at grade, by using a small tool. This allows an access point to the homeowner's plumbing for camera or jetting if necessary, and if for some reason this valve did become entrained with debris, it's easily removed, replaced, serviced, or and installed back in. So in the gravity sewer main is where we would be requiring that, and it's called a mainline adapter valve, which is actually a backwater valve. Then on the sewer force main connections, we've run into multiple problems over the years with different types of pipe being used or allowed to be used over the years, and we'd like to have a clarification on that the only pipe that would be allowed on the discharge side of the pump would be what's known as NDOT, E-N-D-O-T, HDPE, green sewer pipe, and that's made from a virgin PE 4710 resin or equivalent. Right now, that is the only style, but we look forward down the road not to have to change these these regulations. So we would put in the or equivalent, and it would have to be approved by the department here. What we won't allow are any glued together pipes. Those are ones that we found to be extremely problematic with allowing infiltration. We see problems with roots getting in, causing some matting and some clogging issues. So if you guys have not received that, I will send another copy over to you. And if you have and you are agreeable with the wording on that, let me know.
I've seen it, Frank. This is Luke, and I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction.
I have
All right.
as well, and I also agree.
Okay. Do we need a motion to approve, I believe?
Does it
We
change
need
the
to
reg?
approve that?
Yes, this would be in addition to the regs.
Yep. So, Mr. Bishop, if you could go ahead and make a motion for us.
Motion to approve the addition for the sewer language as discussed.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So when will that be updated into the regs? Is that immediate, Frank?
That will be as immediate as I can get it in there.
Okay, very good.
For the most part, we've recommended these items, to contractors that have been doing work, and there has been no kickback on any of it. We definitely want to just make sure we have it in there moving forward, in case, there are some inferior products that come up. We want to make sure we have the best possible situation for us now and moving forward.
Very good.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
especially like the access from grade in the future, and that would be the maintenance point. And as a contractor myself, it does you no good if you can't get to the backwater valve.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't do any good if it's under a driveway or a parking lot. We've run into that already.
And they always seem to be that way. That Murphy shows up and puts it under things.
Exactly. All right. I'll keep, let's see, how are we doing on time? 5:43? All right. Looks like I got probably enough time to finish this. Flow testing. We had another large commercial building on Leonard Street, one of the new facilities. They required testing of their new large fire pump. The fire test actually went perfectly. They flowed just around 16,000 gallons of water in probably a matter of minutes. I was not there, but knowing the size of the pump, that's a pretty accurate description. Thankfully, there was zero discoloration, zero complaints from the test. We had staff on hand at the treatment facility. This is the first time a large pump-style test has been performed this close to the new treatment facility. We anticipated seeing changes in pressure and flow. The plant acted as we had hoped. There were no problems at all. It addressed the changes in pressure and flow and pumped accordingly. Everything stayed within parameters. We were very pleased at how it went and how the test went. And believe it or not, last month we actually did have a dirty water call. This was actually over the holiday weekend it was Christmas weekend. And the technician received the call while he was on his way to perform his weekend rounds. This came from a resident on Pine Street. Technician was able to open up one of the new hydrants that was off in the woods, ran at low flow, went down to the well on Pine Street, performed his weekend rounds, and by the time he came back, the water was already running clear. He stayed for an additional 5 or so minutes, according to the notes, and the water remained clear. Shut it off, and there have been no other additional complaints. Now, whether this is an isolated incident or this is where the water could be mixing from well 1, which is not one of our treated wells in the treatment plant, remains to be seen. We do our testing out in the facility. We know exactly what our numbers are coming out of the treatment facility. We know what our numbers are coming out of well 1, which typically does run higher manganese levels. We only use that well and well 3 on an as-needed basis. So I do not know if that well was operational at the time, and that's what the discoloration was, or if it was just a change in direction, if the well was offline, and the treatment plant water was now taking its travel down Pine Street. Either way, it cleared up extremely fast. We've kept a note of it, when it was and where it was, how long it ran, and it'll be a situation that we're going to monitor as the new wells come online. We believe we'll even have less reliance on well 1 and well 3, so we should see the levels and the requirements improve in the system. Again, knock on wood, thankfully it's not something that has been a reoccurring problem, and it's not definitely not town-wide.
Very good.
And that brings me to the end of my minutes, and I think I'm pretty close to on time. Let's see.
Very good.
So,
I think up next are Discrete Engineering for the folks from 195 Mansfield Ave. Rep from Discrete Engineering on the line.
No, actually, if we go by the chart, it should be Norton Media Center first. We have that one at 5:50.
Keep your eye on it, Frank. I must have missed that one in a minute.
No, sorry, no worries. I'm not sure if we have anybody on from the Media Center. That's a little bit early.
Sure, I'm here. This is Jason Benjamin. I'm the director.
Hey, Jason, how are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
You bet.
So, did everyone get a chance to receive a copy of the spec sheet that I sent over from Frank?
I have looked at it.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any questions about the sizes of the equipment or intended usage or anything like that?
To the best of your knowledge, we're just hoping that it doesn't interfere with any of the other municipal use. I know police and fire are on that as well, and I don't know a lot about the technology and or frequencies, but I don't want it interfering with other existing uses on the tower.
Yeah. Who's up there now? Just police and fire?
No, we actually have multiple people up there. All the cell carriers use those tanks in town. There's I know there's Sprint. I believe there's T-Mobile. I believe Verizon's up there. There could be another one up there without pulling out the documents on it. But just about every cell tower you can think of utilizes elevated tanks.
Right. Yeah. So we would be the units that I had spec'd, they have built-in GPS so that they can maintain their location and not interfere with, adjacent signals. And the larger carriers are all on licensed bands, so they all have their own dedicated frequencies that we would not be utilizing at all. We're just going to be in the unlicensed part of the spectrum, much lower down, because what that does is it allows better signal penetration, and we're just looking for a line of sight from the studio directly to the tower for backhaul, and then just one access point. And it's just for proof of concept. So if it's something that we're able to, put together at a, fairly decent, cost efficiency and be able to, make some availability for a certain number of clients, in the vicinity, that would be a success for us. And it would be a very small footprint, I think, on the tower, and certainly it would not be our intention to have any kind of signal interference with anything else that's on there.
All right. What type of mount would be used? I think I had asked a question. Forgive me if it's already been answered in my emails. Are you guys looking to go to one of the legs, one of the railings, or the tank itself? Just trying to get an idea of elevation that we're looking at and where it will be mounted.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that same question as far as what is the height of that tower, roughly?
You're under the 200-foot mark because it is not required to be illuminated, as our center tank is. I could pull some specs and get them over to you. I don't have them readily available while I'm on this phone.
Right. So if you had to guess, would you think that being on the rails or the legs would put us at around 50, 60 feet?
Definitely. I just think you might have an issue with line of sight because of the foliage
Yeah.
at the elevation. You may need to go higher to make your clear line of sight where you're looking to get back to at the media center.
How high up are the police and fire radios?
I really do not have that answer.
Okay. I wouldn't think you would need anything higher than that.
Okay.
So,
The only problem with the legs is obviously the limited access to them. You know, you need a man lift or something to come in to be able to install them there. If you go up to the catwalk, you know, obviously you can climb the tower, access the catwalk, and install them there. Anything on the top of that tank gets a little bit more sketchy. We also have our skater antennas up there, which control our water and sewer systems. So we also have to make sure the issues that are going to cause any interference with those. So I can get you a schematic of the tank. We can have a little bit better discussion on you know, what elevation may work. I'm not sure. Believe it or not, a drone actually might come in handy for this to know elevations and line of sight to see if you're going to have anything in the way.
right. Yeah, maybe I can do a drone survey, you know, prior to, just to make sure that we have everything confirmed on both ends of it. That's a really good idea.
The other question that I had, I'm not sure, again, I apologize if it was already answered. You know, this sounds like it's going to be temporary as an investigation, then it possibly become permanent. What are we looking at for a power source, and where's that going to come from?
Again, that's something I was going to also ask you. These units are power over Ethernet, as are most of the APs that are out there. They're very low wattage. They're 20 watts less. We're not talking about a significant amount of power. I'm not sure what you guys currently have there for AC, or if that's something that we would have to add a dedicated circuit, or if that would even be a possibility if it became something that was permanent.
Yeah, it'd definitely be something we'd have to have a site walk and go over. We can have some ideas and throw some ideas back and forth. The power that we have there that goes to that building is actually underground, and it comes from the storage facility building, which is a little further behind that. So if there was a dedicated line that had to be run to that, or an additional line, it might be a little more involved. There's a possibility of speaking with police and fire. They actually have a small building out there for their communications. Maybe they might have a power source available. And they also have both facilities are run by backup generator. Police and fire have their own small generator, and we actually have a larger generator there that runs the whole facility if power does go down.
Oh, nice. Really nice. Yeah, I can't imagine we would need any more than, I mean, one single 20 amp circuit would pop everything.
Okay.
Again, we'll have to take a survey and see what's actually there on site, and we have, you know, provisioned in the cost of the project some installation costs for electricity. So if that's required, then that's what we have to do.
All right. That answers.
It seems like everything seems to be in order. And why don't we proceed on a temporary basis? If nobody has any objections, Steve, are you all right with this?
Absolutely, yes.
Let's go ahead on a temporary basis. And I don't know how to word it, but just again, if there is interference in the initial phase of the trial period, we'll have to adjust the location of the antenna. But it sounds like you're in those lower frequencies that the other folks aren't in competition with. So let's proceed and monitor what happens and see what is the next step, Jason.
Well, the next step after, you know, getting your approval would be for us to go out and purchase the equipment. Then I'll stage it, you know, at ground level, and we'll test it and make sure that everything's talking to everything else. And then I would, you know, maybe see if you guys, would you recommend that we get some kind of a cherry picker or a bucket truck or something like that on our own, or do you have vendors that you work with for that? for maintenance?
The vendors that we use for tank cleaning, they actually bring in their own units. The cell service people, when they come in, depending on their location on the tank, either use an extremely large man lift or even a crane with a man basket. Depending on the elevation that you're looking for, which, I mean, once you're on site, you may have a good idea and just take a quick guess at it. I'm not sure. You're thinking town departments, maybe there's another access that we could use, highway truck, maybe fire truck, just putting it out there as an idea. I don't know if they'd be willing to work with you guys or not, but, obviously it'd be a substantial cost savings if it was done in-house.
Right. Well, I'll put some feelers out and see what, everyone thinks is possible, and that answers that question. Thank you.
The other option, Jason, as Frank said earlier, the railing, Frank, some are mounted to the railing up on the catwalk.
Yeah, there were some things that were mounted to the railing. For the most part, the larger antennas have been moved and are actually mounted to brackets that are on the side of the bowl of the tank, so more to say. But the railing for something this antenna sounds like it's fairly small, fairly light, may be an option, and that'd be something, obviously you'd still need to carry or hoist the equipment, the antennas and the cable up to the catwalk. But again, it's a pretty simple procedure as long as there's qualified people that crawl the tank.
Right. Yeah, and these are really small form factor, like 1 foot by 1 foot radios. They're very, very small.
Okay.
Right. So, Jason, that would be your price point leader. And again, as long as it works with everything else that's existing, that would be great. And I guess it's just kind of a design build thing. You get your folks together and you look at what you want to see and where it has to locate on that side of the tank or what elevation you need, and proceed from there. And let's just I'll put Frank as the point person on this, and he'll keep us abreast of any changes.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
We appreciate all the good stuff you do for our community, Jason. It's a good thing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye.
Okay, now I think I'm going to move ahead to the folks from Deprete and 195 Mansfield Ave. Is anybody from Deprete Engineering online?
I am. It's Brandon Carr with Deprete Engineering.
Hey, Brandon, how are you tonight?
Good. Good evening, everyone. Like I said, my name's Brandon Carr from Deprete Engineering. I also have on the line, I believe, Jason Kambitsis from AR Building, who's the developer for the project, and then our attorney, Peter Freeman, I think, is listening in case we have any questions for him. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the project, but it's a proposed 40B project. It's a town-supported 40B. It's on Mansfield Avenue. It's directly north of the plaza that has Roach Brothers and the McDonald's there. It's a proposed 4-story building with 100 units. We're going through Conservation and Zoning Board of Appeals currently under their review. We're wrapping up basically with the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the question came up about water and sewer connection fees. And that's mainly why we're here tonight. But like I said, the project is proposed as 100 units. It's a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. It's got 2 water taps, a proposed 6-inch fire service, and a proposed 2-inch domestic service. And then it's got a 8-inch sewer connection. We've been working with Frank in the water and sewer department. They've seen the plans along the way, and we've responded to some technical comments from them. So I'm here to talk about any technical questions or questions on the projects you have. But the main reason why we wanted to come before you tonight was to discuss the sewer and water connection fees. being a 40B project, 25% of the units are affordable. So we had discussed with the Zoning Board of Appeals, on similar projects in the past in Norton and in other municipalities, we've seen reductions in those sewer and water connection fees based on those 25 units being affordable. I mean, in the past, if you've done subdivisions with, say, just to give it easy, 100 houses, we've seen it where, the authority has waived the connection fees for the 25 affordable units, houses. But, in this case, since it is one connection with one overall fee, we wanted to discuss a potential maybe 25% reduction in that fee, or have that discussion at least with the board before we finalize the Zoning Board of Appeals process. So that's kind of the overall high-level description of the project and why we're here. And like I said, I'm here for questions. We also have Jason from AR Building if you have anything from a overall more developer-centered question. So.
Sure. I'll start. This is Luke Grant. I'm the chairman. We also have Steve Bishop on the Water Sewer Commission online, and you guys have dealt with Frank. I'll start with the last question first. I think my feeling on this issue will be the increased density you get from the 40B permit gives you folks an advantage. And if this were a standard development, our fee would be the same. So I think, in my opinion, the fee is the fee is the fee, and we'll just leave that at that. The other thing I have is, Frank, has there been any peer review, or have you talked with Weston and Sampson about the 2-inch service feeding 100 units? Is that what I'm hearing? A 2-inch domestic service feeding 100 units?
That is correct. That information actually was just passed along this afternoon. Originally, it was thought to be a 4-inch service for the domestic and an 8-inch for the fire sprinkler. I did find out this afternoon in an email that it looks like it's proposed as a 6-inch fire sprinkler and a 2-inch domestic. I would have to review some of the other buildings in town with similar usage and amounts to see if that 2-inch is going to suffice or if it would need to be larger.
Right.
Yeah, and again,
go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, this is Brandon Carrigan. That was a mistake on my part. When me and Frank and I had spoken last week, I had told him 8 and 4, and just for reviewing for this meeting, I hadn't looked at the plans in detail in a while because we've been going through the ZBA process. I did notice that the 6 and the 2 is what we received from our plumbing engineer for the building. But, if that needs to go to a 4-inch, we'll put in what size is required. And obviously that would increase the connection fee a little bit. But the sewer connection fee is really the one that is the larger of the items. So,
right. You understand what happens, Brandon. The connection fee kind of allocates your user as a participant in our system, which has brought the sewer all the way to your project for you to merrily hook up. A lot of the folks that do receive discounts and consideration do a substantial amount of work. Your project is, I think, I've been told at this point anyway, that our infrastructure is in place for you folks to just tap in, and that will just require the fees that you see in our rules and regs.
okay.
This is Peter Freeman, as Brandon said, attorney, and I've worked with you folks in Norton. I don't know the individual members. I had met several years ago, most recently on the 274 East Main Street, the apartment project, and a few others like Arrowhead. So I hear what you're saying, and, the ZBA just wanted feedback, and this has been a friendly 40B from the get-go. As Brandon said, it's a local initiative project actually supported by the selectmen, and I don't mean to imply that they said, oh, sure, reduce fees. I'm not saying that. I just want to emphasize that fact that, it is supported by the town. And I hear you, Mr. Chairman, on what you just said. On the other hand, there's not any new work that needs to be done. And I believe years ago on a subdivision, I believe at the time was called Arrowhead, and the road name has changed to, I think, it'll come back to me. But in any case, that was a subdivision from memory of about 40 or 50 units, and I believe there was a reduction. 274 East Main was admittedly somewhat different in that, you know, the developer was putting in a lot of infrastructure, an extension of the sewer line, as well as, you know, some road widening and things like that. So, you know, the fact is we just, you know, felt as though it is appropriate to ask with the town's support, and it would still be a substantial number if we're looking for a reduction on just the affordable units. So, you know, we've had a very good experience with the ZBA, and I acknowledge they would rather have us work it out with you, but, you know, we can still discuss it with them, you know, at our next and, you know, we think final hearing. And just to also reiterate one other thing that Brian said, he was responding specifically to the question of the size of the lines. You know, we in no way, you know, are seeking waivers or anything from the ZBA related to technical things. Whatever the requirements are, you know, we know that we need to and perfectly capable of, you know, complying with all the technical things. So I just wanted to give, you know, that background with a little historical perspective from my personal knowledge. And, you know, we certainly wouldn't be here if we thought we were being frivolous. We think it's a fair request, and I hope it'll still have some consideration from you.
Right, no, thank you, Attorney Freeman. I appreciate the question. It makes perfect sense. There are a lot of places that have different structures. Our water and sewer, as you probably well know, are enterprise accounts, so we are treated as, for lack of a better word, small utility companies within the town. So we have to answer to our ratepayers, and I can't really put your new project on the backs of those folks who have been existing ratepayers for many years. And as you did mention, Lloyd and the folks at 274 did substantial improvements to that whole end of town as far as infrastructure, roads, and it's apples and oranges. You know what I mean? The stuff over on Mansfield Ave that you're dealing with, the 195 Mansfield Ave, the improvements are already there. That I know of. I'm trying to rack my brain and think of what we couldn't use over there, but really it's all ready to plug and play over there. You know, so I appreciate your question. It's just I don't think it plays in this situation.
Hello, this is Jason Cambisis from AR Building. I just had trouble getting in on a Zoom. So I might have missed a couple minutes, and I don't know if I'm able to talk right now. I'm just chiming in. So.
Yep. Hi, Jason. Welcome. My name's Luke Green. I'm the chairman. We also have Steve Bishop from the Water Sewer Commission, and our superintendent is Frank Fournier. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to chime in, and you know, realistically, things might have already been said. You know, for us, you know, we're coming in, and yeah, we're not making a huge amount of improvements, but we're also not taking. You know, a lot of usage there as well. You know, the reality of us coming in is we're taking and redeveloping this small portion of the property and bringing in a bunch of ratepayers on a piece of ground that had one. Now it's going to have, you know, 100 units on it. So for us, you know, we can't say that there may be a certain amount of, you know, our density has given us that relief. But, you know, that relief is not true in the sense that we do have to lessen our rents dramatically in order to do that. Now, we wouldn't come and ask you this if we thought it was uncouth or out of the realm of possibility. For us, dealing with these projects throughout Massachusetts, this is kind of a standard practice. And I don't mean to say what people do elsewhere you need to do, but, you know, we didn't come at it just out of the blue and stating this. Other projects have done it, as you stated. They have come in and maybe they have made improvements, and we understand that. We don't have to make improvements. There's a lot of capacity. There's no, you know, there should be no negative issue to that other than we're bringing more people on who are ratepayers, who are coming on, who are using much less water, proportionally than what you have in other places. So that's kind of why we ask for that relief, as it is a, you know, people say, hey, the density, yeah, we get that, but it is still a major burden financially. It does hit us, and this is a major relief for us as we progress forward.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, Peter Freeman again.
Go ahead.
In terms of that financial impact and, all equities, we appreciate your fair consideration. The water fees, I don't think, we're pushing on, any savings is good, but the substantial fees, with what, you folks like, and, they're set with rational reasons and all that, on the connection fees, but, that's what we're looking on, a reduction on.
Yeah.
As the ratepayers, although any payments, any monetary fees that you charge that benefit the district and the town, help everybody, including ratepayers. But we're not looking for anything on on the ongoing user fees. Once the building's up and operated, that would directly affect ratepayers and perhaps even unfair.
We'll have our Weston and Sampson consulting engineers review your plans finally to make sure all the numbers work. But I think I don't know if we're quite there yet, but that's on you. If you want us to take a look at those and make sure it's adequate for what you're going to do, we'd be happy to do that. And again, Frank is the point person on this. Go through him, and we'll chat again, I'm sure.
Okay, we thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Mr. Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I think it looks like a time for a visit to rules and reg update. Frank, do you have those?
Yeah, I actually snuck those in the updates there, so we have an open.
Very good. If you can jump then to Weston and Sampson, let's go with Steve Peterson. Are you out there for the sewer update from Weston and Sampson?
Yes, I'm here, Luke.
How you doing tonight, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So I can jump in and give you my update. Since the last meeting on the West Main Street sewer project, so the last time we spoke, they had done the pump station startup. It generated a small list of additional things to do. So they've since replaced the locks at the building. So now they're keyed to the town's keying system. They did some work on the flow meter, some calibration. It should be good to go. There is a final calibration required when there's actually wastewater. The meters react a little different to clean water than they do to the wastewater with the solids in it. So we'll need to see it function once it's up and actually running. Since we last talked, a couple things did develop at the station, mostly due to the rain event, the Christmas Day storm. We did encounter a leak in the roof, which has already been looked at, diagnosed. It was clearly associated with the vent, or the muffler stacked from the generator that penetrates the roof and vents through the roof. And it has been addressed. Some of the annular space wasn't properly sealed during the installation. So we'll keep an eye on that during the next storm. But Howard from the sewer division was out there and witnessed the repair to that. So we should be good there. If not, we'll readdress it again later. One other thing that was identified that we are working on is we did get some stormwater, some rainwater runoff that was coming over the hatch to the wet well. It was getting into the wet well. we have some ideas, and we're working with the contractor to address that. But it was noticed, again, Howard noticed that the wet well level rise in the wet well during the storm, and there should be no flow coming into the station. So, at least the good news is with no customers connected now, we really have to isolate to where the issue was. We will work to seal that up and make sure that whatever's going on. I mean, the hatches are designed to be watertight, but there is something going on in terms of the way the water is puddling over the hatch, I think. So it's being addressed. We've been working on, we're currently working on the O&M manual. The contractor is...
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I'm so sorry, Mr. Peterson, but I cannot hear you because of background noise. Is it possible that everybody else could please press mute? Go ahead, Mr. Peterson. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Can everyone hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. So I was talking about the O&M manual. So the contractor is required to get information from all of the vendors and his suppliers. We have most of that, and the information that we are still waiting on is on its way. So we're in good shape with the O&M manuals, and we take that and assemble all the manufacturer's stuff into one comprehensive volume for the operators of the station. So we should have that in short order, as well as the record drawings. We are working on those. Should have everything delivered to the town by the end of January in terms of that. So the information that the town will need going forward with regard to the system. So we talked last meeting about substantial completion. That with the successful startup, the contractor would be requesting that, and so they have requested acknowledgement of substantial completion. I forwarded that over just today to the sewer department with our recommendation that the town acknowledge substantial completion, which is basically beneficial occupancy. The system is ready for you to start accepting flows. With the substantial completion acknowledgement, we include a monetized punch list of work that they still need to do, which includes work to remedy the inflow at the wet well hatch, as well as some spring stuff regarding loaming and seeding in some areas. There's some stuff that didn't stabilize, didn't get it down before the winter hit. So when the appropriate weather comes, they have some areas that they need to go back, including the pump station itself. They have some surface restoration that they have to go out and address. So we put that all together in a monetized punch list, as well as the only incomplete work, as we've mentioned several times now, is that final fill and overlay on the paving. So that will be done in the spring also. The biggest thing about the monetized punch list is to make sure that the value of the work that they owe you, the stuff that they need to do under the items they've been paid for, doesn't exceed the amount of retainage that you maintain on the job. So with substantial completion, they are allowed to request a reduction in retainage down to 1%, which I assume they will do with their next pay rec. So your retainage of 5% right now is about $225,000. With their next, if you acknowledge substantial completion with their next pay rec, they'll request a reduction to 1%, which will still give the town $45,000 in retainage, and the monetized punch list we put together is about $18,000. So you would still have retainage to cover what we feel is worth that they still owe you for the items that you've paid them. So with that being said, it's kind of a... Go ahead, Luke.
What is the biggest single item on the punch list? What's the Is
the work to the
it a
hatch.
lot of little things, or is there one larger than the others?
I think so. The biggest dollar value and the biggest unknown is what we're going to do to keep that rainwater from getting into the hatch. So they might have to do some excavation. We're potentially going to raise the hatch up. You know, we have it flush with grade right now, basically because of where it is in the driveway for snow removal and stuff. It can get complicated if it's raised. So we're still looking into exactly what we're going to do there. But so that's the largest value. But, so we have 7 items on the list, which is in the information that I did send. And it's, $2,000. Each item is like, $2,000 to $5,000. So there's nothing real huge.
Okay. And in your opinion, they've met their substantial completion, so the schools are on. Woodland Meadows would be on if they could connect their pipes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the other part of it. So the schools are already connected. So in theory, you've already taken beneficial occupancy of the gravity sewer downstream of the pump station. So this is just, acknowledging that the rest of the system is ready. And, I'm glad you bring that up. The Housing Authority is very anxious to connect, and the back and forth that we've had with them right now, they have a contractor ready to go. He has basically said that he will put the Housing Authority on his schedule as soon as he knows that the town has accepted the sewer. So based on if you guys vote to do that tonight to acknowledge the substantial completion, I think that will jumpstart the process with the Housing Authority, and they are very anxious to connect. So, there's some work that has to be done on their end by their contractors. So they need a little lead time to get their connection done. So, yep, that's where we're headed.
Sounds good. Well, at this point, I, for one, for many reasons, but I know Rocky O's really, once they got over the hurdle of the rock and the blasting kind of sped things up, I would go ahead and vote for substantial completion, not only because they're at that point, but I think I don't want to hold up the Housing Authority any more than it's already happened. I think they've been a good partner in this project, and I think we should let them go ahead and move along on that. How do you feel, Steve?
I absolutely agree. Let's get this going.
All right, then I guess I'll call for a formal vote. All in favor of substantial completion for the segment of the Rocky O sewer main?
All in favor? No, I agree.
Well, then I think substantial completion is met, and let's go ahead and let Rocky O know, as well as the Housing Authority.
Okay. So Frank, I can follow up with you and Rose tomorrow, but the packet we sent has a suggested letter to go to Rocky O with the monetized punch list that acknowledges it. So we should be good to go, and I can reach back out to the Housing Authority with form. I told them once the commission had voted for substantial completion, we would let them know the effective date of that acknowledgement. So we can let them know. So that should take care of that piece. In terms of a financial update, so last meeting we talked about putting in a couple of reimbursement requests. So with the Housing Authority and the monies that they had committed to the project, you guys invoiced them for their last payment. So they are now paid all the way up to the commitment that they had given, which was about $1.8 million between their connection fee and their contribution to the construction of the project. So at this point, all monies that were agreed upon have been paid and have been forwarded to the town finance department and are in the account and are being used to pay bills and have been being used. With regard to SRF, we also prepared another SRF reimbursement request, and that money, I think on Monday or at the beginning of this week or end of last week, was wired into the account. To date, the town's gotten about $4 million in reimbursements through the SRF loan. When we look at our estimate to complete, there's going to be about another $500,000 in requests. A lot of that is the contractor's retainage, but also the final paving that needs to be done in the spring. And what that means is, so just as kind of background or an update, so the SRF loan for this project, you're authorized to borrow up to about $5.3 million because of the monies from the Housing Authority that subsidize the cost of the project. The final loan at this point is estimated will be about $4.5 million. So we didn't borrow the full 5.3 against the loan. And at this point, the way the town finance department handles the payments is we collect the monies through the SRF and the Housing Authority. They deposit the money in the account and pay bills. They have to have money available in the account in order to pay bills. So with the recent monies that were collected here, based on our math, the town's got about $300,000 in their hands right now to pay bills as they come in, and as soon as that money's drawn down, we'll look at doing another SRF reimbursement request. So, just kind of an update. We don't always go into a lot of detail about how that's going, so I think I'd give you guys an update on that. The other thing that we've been talking about is the schools. So with the schools now connected to the sewer, they're going to start paying their bills. We've talked about the fact that there's some concerns that there's extraneous flow out there, meaning, stormwater or infiltration. It existed in the system, before. All the evidence at this point indicates that there are some extraneous flows. We are working with the school to help them figure out what those flows are, so that we can figure out a way to get those out of your system. And whatever those flows are, they used to go to the middle school treatment plant. Now that they don't pump down there, they're pumping into your sewer, and those are in our system. And we will deal with it. I guess that in the short term, the issue is the billing that's going to the public schools. Typically, you would bill these buildings off of water records. We're in a situation right now where where the schools are the only ones connected, that we've been comparing the water use with the flow that's going through the meter at Howard Street. And that's where we're getting the information that, the sewer flows are higher than the water use. And we're going to continue to look at that. And also, in the short term, the plan, from talking with Frank, the plan is to bill the schools right now, for these schools, for the high school and the Yale, off of the actual sewer flows, so that at least the town is capturing the money for all the flows that are coming down the line, and then continue to work with the schools to get that flow out of them, find a way to get that flow out of the line. to that end, so we just talked about the fact that the housing authority will be connecting at some point in the not too distant future. Once there is someone else connected to the line, the billing at the Howard Street meter will no longer be representative of the schools only. We are looking at putting a meter on the pump at the Yale school now that pumps into the system, so that we will continue, so that the town will continue to be able to bill the schools based on their actual sewer use while we figure out a way to get some of the flow on the sewer. And that's something that Frank and Howard are looking into, and Frank might want to chime in on that, but I think we wanted to talk to the commission about their thoughts and approval, I guess, to pursue putting a meter on the Yale Street pump.
Yeah, exactly. I'll jump right in. We believe it's going to take some time to make the corrections necessary at the schools based on the age of the structure and just the unknown of how many connections there possibly could be. And moving forward, when others tie into this system, having a meter directly on the discharge pipe from the pump station at the schools will ease the billing process instead of having to do calculations and subtract flow readings from each unit that connects to the facility, and then take that information from Howard Street to come up with their bill. I believe it's a relatively small fee to get an accurate number, and as they progress, and I'm going to assume work towards the goal of removing all of the I&I, I believe it's going to be not handled all at once. So we'll be able to track the changes that happen over time while they make the corrections to the existing facility, and then we can take those numbers and make sure we're accurately billing them, and there will be no issues with mathematical errors coming either for their bill or for another user down the line.
Yep, that makes sense, Frank. I think the additional meter, I just would strongly recommend everybody go ahead and get Howard's input on the meter location and type.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be similar to other products that we've used in town that are very accurate.
That sounds good. How close are we to having other tie-ins happen? That won't happen until the spring, right?
Correct. That's the next tie-in will be. Yeah, exactly, Steve. Will be the housing authority.
Okay. Well, then they could, with our approval of the substantial completion, theoretically, a lot of their work is off the state road, so they could actually go ahead and get it done sooner. So I guess I'm just trying to backfeed into when we need to get the meter in is my question.
Yeah, we're going to move along rather quickly with it. We're going to get a quote on it. If it's under the magic number, we're going to go ahead and ask our specialist that we've used in the past to acquire it and set up a date to install it. Even if the housing authority does connect prior to this meter being available and installed, the two large entities will be relatively easy to figure the calculations out. We have the discharge flow meter at the new pump station, so we'll know exactly what's coming in from the housing authority. We'll see the difference at the Howard Street line meter, and then obviously just be a simple mathematical equation to figure out the difference for the school. We'd be a little bit more concerned as if it drags on even longer and we have other residents tie in. That would be a little bit more difficult to make the calculations. I don't anticipate any delay, but with COVID, there's been some strange delays on different things that normally wouldn't have a backup, and just want to make sure we have everything in order.
Right. No, the supply side of things is a little bit funky right now, so I guess it sounds like the
going sooner rather than later, and I think that's the way to go. Very good.
Okay, and that's everything I have on West Main Street. I would just, Frank, I haven't had a chance to give you an update, but we should have some stuff on Cobb Street, what we consider a 75% set of plans to go over with you in terms of replacing the generator out there.
Okay.
We should have that, if not this week, next week, we should have that. So,
Nice.
just as an update on the work we're doing for Cobb Street. So I would say, yeah, unless you have any other questions on West Main Street, that's what I have to report.
Sounds good. Then Steve, Tara McManus from West Sampson, are you on the call?
Yes, hi, Tara McManus from Weston and Sampson.
How are you, Tara?
I'm doing good. How's everybody tonight?
Outstanding.
All right. Excellent.
Okay.
I'll keep it brief as I know we've been on the line for a while. Have some updates for the water treatment plant. We have the contractor should have been on site today. I did not receive an update at the end of the day, so I'm going to check in with the operators tomorrow just to confirm that Methuen did show up. But they were going to be on site today to conduct some survey work and work on their as-built. They also were going to inspect the recycle tank again, so I'm waiting for their final say on that so we can work with Frank and Derek on discussions on how we want to proceed moving forward with that. The intent is to obviously seal it up and get it done right. So our goal right now is to decide whether or not they want to work on that this week, next week, or if they're going to postpone till they get warmer weather. They may need to bring in some heaters depending on the temperatures in that tank. So I'll hopefully have a better idea in the next week or two, and I'll likely give you guys an email update on that as soon as I have it, just so that everybody's very aware of what they're proposing and what our next steps will be. The other part of the punch list that they were hoping to work on this week is either Thursday, Friday. I'll need to check in with Derek tomorrow just to see if he's available or his staff is available to work on it. But the contractor is intending to complete the work at well 5 as far as the existing pump is concerned, working on the vibration, doing some repairs at that site. The other vibration analysis performed came in fine, waiting for those reports, but the initial on-site inspection went well. And we're also going to work on flow testing the pumps and just to confirm that all the pumps in the treatment plant are working up to snuff. So those are documents that we had received, and we've been requesting them for several months now, and we confirmed this week with the contractor that the subcontractor did not perform those tests, which we had indicated pretty much the last 6 months. So we're hopefully going to wrap that up this week, assuming the system can handle it and we're ready to go. So I'll keep everybody posted on how that goes. But just want to make you aware that they're still working on some punch list items. It's a slow process as it's been. We're pushing, but no payment until they, no reduction in payment until they wrap that up. So we're also working on some potential assurances if they don't complete any of the work in the next couple weeks, that'll be completed in the next few months, or if they want to wait till the spring till better weather for some of the other remaining punch list items, we'll work with them on that. Before I move topics, I just want to check in on the treatment plant if anybody had any comments. There's obviously not too much happened with the holidays, but hopefully 2021 getting back on track.
Looking forward to completion, Tara.
Yeah.
And that magic cup of coffee. I think I still have a cup of coffee out there. And
Definitely the cup of coffee is coming. Yep.
fantastic.
All right. So the wells were the next item of business. So as everybody's aware, we've been really focused on well number 5 and completing the casing installation for that well. That was completed on December 30th. We just received the sieve analysis yesterday, actually, for the well. So we're currently right now reviewing the data and working on the well to design the screen sizing. So, next week or so, we'll be starting to put in the order for the new screen. Once we size it, we'll have a better idea of whether or not it's kind of more or less something that's available right now, or if it's something we do have to place an order for a possible couple-week delivery. So by the next meeting, I should at the very least have an idea of when we might have the screen on site. Sullivan has moved over from well 5. They were going to start, I believe, today on removing the existing 8-inch well that we had installed to start prepping the site. However, I think they had a starter issue, so they had to replace that. So they're planning to come back tomorrow and get started on the site prep and then start drilling well number 6. So we're pretty much where we think we were going to be on timing-wise. So get started on well 6. Hopefully I'll have a nice report on what size casing we're installing in the next couple weeks. So well 5 went pretty well. Not to use the term again, but it's in good shape. So we'll have a good update in another couple weeks for the next meeting for the completion of that and installation of the screen, and the big next step, which would be the pumping test, when we'll do the full well pumping test and water quality samples. So it's in the horizon right now for the next few weeks. So looking good.
That's great news, Tara. I'm anxious to get that online.
Yes, definitely. So it was, we haven't really done too much water work in the winter, so there's not too much more to report. I don't know if there's any questions from any previous discussions or from today, or if you need anything else that you want me to report on, just let me know.
Yeah, I think that does it. Does anybody have anything else? I think we're about tied up, waiting for Mr. Bishop's favorite motion.
We got a date for the next meeting? We already got that, right?
The 26th.
We have it as a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. Motion
Very good.
to adjourn.
I'll second that. And thank everybody for listening and talking. And be safe out there, and we'll chat again on the 26th.
And Victoria apologizes for her interruption earlier.
Yeah.
You're okay, Victoria. If you can't hear anybody at any time, you speak up.
Yeah, I was hearing somebody's radio change. I'm like, come on.
Oh, good.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Sorry.
You as well. All right, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Very good. Good night.
This session is no longer being recorded.